Welcome to another episode of the Bootcamp. I'm joined here today with Richard Cowan of Cannabis Science Incorporated, formerly National Director of NORML, and also the head of the Dispensary Defense Group. Dick Cowan, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
So let's just talk about what's going on today. It's before New Year's Eve in 2009, and there's two big pending decisions from the Los Angeles City Council and the San Diego City Council. What do you think the City Council is going to propose in Los Angeles first, after they reconvene on the 13th?
I don't think that they know what they're going to do. I think that watching this evolve has been a sort of a comedy of errors, literally, in the sense that they have gone into this without really wanting to know anything about how the dispensary business industry actually works. And of course, they've been pushed from the law enforcement side, both the district attorney and the city council, who basically want to shut all of the dispensaries down. Mm-hmm. And if they were to do that, there would be an explosion of protests in the city. They have to understand that. It would mean that the 60-some-odd% vote today, if you were voting in LA today for out-and-out legalization, it would be 60-some-odd%. If they do that, it'll be 75-80% just instantly, because it's clear that isn't going to work. At the same time, the idea of regulating a large number of business establishments of a particular sort mm-hmm. is not unreasonable in the present political context, but you really, the novel idea is they should know something about the industry they're trying to regulate.
Sure.
And that, so far, they have been sort of unwilling to learn, and every time they come up with one of their fake solutions, then people point out facts to them, and that's a problem.
Well, what do you think about their latest proposal that would essentially shut down most of the dispensaries in Los Angeles and create a super dispensaries? Do you think that will really happen?
Well, no. I think the biggest problem they've got is the fact that you've got, with 1,000 dispensaries, you've got a lot of people out there who can afford to pay lawyers even better than the city of Los Angeles has. The dispensaries, I don't know how much money they make, but the city of Los Angeles is $500 million in the hole.
Right.
So, I think that the idea that they're going to shut down 90% of the dispensaries, and they've stated they don't want super dispensaries. Right. But if you're going to take the business that's going into 1,000 outlets and push it down into 100 or 200, then obviously those places are going to have 5, 10, 20 times, depending on how drastic they do it. And it's still a growing business. Now, and this is in a city where you have a huge number of empty storefronts.
Right.
And so if they close down some of the existing storefronts, there's really nothing to stop somebody from going to another one, and the city can't keep track of the ones they've got already. So, they really basically need to set objective standards, and then in keeping, in the great American tradition, let the market straighten it out. Because the idea that they could say beforehand that there should be X number of dispensaries, there's no way of saying that any more than they can say how many of any particular kind of business there should be.
Mm-hmm. And I absolutely agree with you. And now to touch on San Diego for a little bit, they're handling the situation, I would say, better than Los Angeles, because Los Angeles, it's just the city council members with some input from the DEA and the police, chief of police. But in San Diego, they're actually making a concerted effort to bring in people from the community. They actually have a dispensary operator that's on the medical marijuana panel, and there's a pastor and things like that too. But at least voices are heard from the industry side, people that are currently and have been working in the medical marijuana industry. So I'm curious to see what San Diego is going to come up with after the first. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to be as strict as Los Angeles?
Well, they're dealing with a different different set of facts to start out with, because you've got a far smaller number of dispensaries, and they can probably give a better guess on how many dispensaries they've got.
Sure.
But again, the question is that if they try to shut down a significant number of dispensaries, the problems are going to come back to the same multiplier effect. That is, if you close down half of the dispensaries, the ones that remain are going to get twice as much business, or whatever multiplier you're going to use there. Mm-hmm. And the other is that people are going to sue, and the question is that what is the state law really going to be on this thing, and if you can keep it tied up in the courts for a year, which is not unheard of,
right,
then you're going into next year's elections, and I think that when people vote, the more the pressure they bring on the dispensaries, the greater the likelihood of legalization is. This is the prohibitionists have gotten themselves into this mess. It's a mess of their own making. Mm-hmm. If the prohibitionists, meaning the police and the politicians who go along with them, and of course the editors of the San Diego Union Tribune and the Los Angeles Times to a lesser degree,
right,
had really were being honest about medical marijuana, they could have dealt with the situation in a forthright way that would have not presented them with this situation. But as it is now, the people look around and say, why don't we just legalize it? And that's where it's going.
Speaking of that, in 2010 in November, California voters are going to be given the Tax and Regulate Cannabis Initiative. What do you think about that initiative, and what do you think about the prospects of it passing her?
Well, I am ambivalent about the initiative itself in terms of some features to it where I think that they went too far in trying to placate the narcs in advance, because you're not going to placate prohibitionists who basically want to shut down medical marijuana because they want to eliminate marijuana, and no matter the fact that the law doesn't work, that is a bad thing for them because it keeps them in business.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I have a difficult time imagining that I would ever vote against anything that moves the ball down the court that much. Now, there's a prospect of some other initiatives that I might like better.
Jack Herr initiative comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think that if an initiative like this one, the tax or anything, which has some objectionable features, passes, and 2 years later we can straighten that out.
Sure. And just to go over some of those features for people that aren't aware, you can't grow under the tax and regulate. It'd still be illegal, from what I'm told, to grow in your house.
Well, there are provisions in it, but I think the most offensive thing is the whole business of restricting it, where you can drink around your kids, but you can't smoke around your kids.
Right, but still take your kids away if they find it.
And that is very, very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's particularly ironic. I mean, that when you think about the problems that alcohol causes in families,
yes.
And if marijuana causes any families other than arguing over who gets the last roach, I'm not aware of it. So I mean, there is the problems that alcoholism causes in American families is no joke.
Yes, that's true.
I think that's, but again, the real key to me, to my way of thinking, is simply two things. One is we've got to move marijuana out of the black market. The black market is destroying Mexico. It is having a devastating effect on the United States. It is the source of most of the hard drug problem. People don't understand, for example, that the people in the Netherlands, not only do the Dutch have a much lower rate of marijuana use than we do, they actually have a very, very low rate of hard drug use, because the reason why the Dutch supported the coffee shop system is what they call the separation of the markets, where marijuana and hard drugs are sold in entirely different markets. No coffee shop in Amsterdam will sell you cocaine or heroin because they know they would lose their marijuana license instantly. And so you don't have any young junkies in the Netherlands. That's really one of the most fascinating things about it, is the average age of heroin addicts in the Netherlands is 40 and rising, whereas in the States it's about 20 and falling.
Wow, that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
And they've separation of markets. Mm-hmm.